awakening. Okay, let me start with the best news that anybody needs to know. The love is uppermost. In the whole of history, since the ancient matriarchal times, the love has not been uppermost. And so this is the moment that the planet has been dreaming of. Who knows, maybe the whole world has been dreaming of since the beginning. The love is uppermost. Last December solstice, the Mayan calendar ended, and the day after, the whole planet switched into a new energy, the energetic connection of love. Love has been gaining ground here. In May, it was all coming to a head. At this point, the tide has turned. The love is uppermost. It doesn't mean there won't be any fear. It means the fear will come up, but it can't take over anymore. So many people have moved into the love orientation and are continuing to move into the love orientation. How does this play out politically? It plays out personally. It plays out politically. Politically, you can see it happening almost every day. One of these brave souls who's in truth and love steps out with new revelations of corporate malpractice or government malpractice, and almost immediately the forces of repression come down on him. But at the same time, the forces of light are also regrouping. More and more investigative journalists are coming out of the woodwork. More and more people are leaking information that they have. More and more people are waking up to both the ways they're all being manipulated and the kind of lies that are manipulating us all. One of the Peruvian shaman has written a book called Just Stop Believing the Lies. We've been run by fear and lies for a very long time here. If the love is uppermost, the truth is also going to be uppermost. And so is freedom. And so is a true understanding of who we really are and what we're entitled to. And just about every other department of thought as well. The love is uppermost. There is a tide of loving, confident, and bold energy coming up from the very depths of being, and forming alliances, rich people and investigative reporters forming alliances to really start a deep dialogue about what matters here and clarifying the true values of human life. Okay, so the love is uppermost. Part of that in one's personal life is that a whole lot of old stuff that people have been pushing away for a long time is up to be thought about, because the love is now in charge and can handle it. So don't be discouraged if all of this murky stuff out of your past is coming up. It's meant to. Just keep returning to the love is uppermost and look to see how it's playing out. The media are not going to tell you anything about this, but that's the great thing that's happening. And a little later on I'll tell you the worst thing that's happening, which also the media will not tell you. So I have been taking, a new impulse like the love requires new ideas. And ever since solstice, the solstice of last December, people are moving into the new ideas. And I've been laying out a whole new system of thought, beginning with the term consciousness, and proposing that consciousness is the real basis of the universe, not matter or matter and energy. The current assumptions are that matter is what's really out there, and consciousness is something produced by matter, mainly just at the end of evolution in us, and maybe some of the higher animals. But it's not general over the whole earth, and even ourselves, it's tucked away inside our brain somewhere and produced by neurons. They say no, it's just all the other way around. Consciousness is what's first and fundamental in the universe, and matter and energy are second. They're elaborations of consciousness. Okay. Einstein thought that we were schoolboys on a beach, playing on a beach, and we could never understand the universe. I say, dare to believe the universe is simple, that we're part and parcel of the universe. We're in and of the universe that we're trying to know, and we can know it. And so I'm laying out a whole new system of thought for you. I have been doing this all along, and it's a system of thought that contains, I call it a feminine metaphysics. It contains terms like spirit, consciousness, oneness, love, the earth, the feminine, the reappearance of the feminine, women, the awakening, the second coming to describe these times in our history, the end of the Piscean era of male thinking, the dawn of the Aquarian age that is to be about the feminine, a whole new set of terms, and along with them, mystery and magic, and an inspirited universe, a universe that is conscious throughout, a universe in which every single being has consciousness and in fact is an expression of consciousness. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to back up briefly and lay this system of thought out for you in a shorter way than I've done it before. I'm just going to spell out what needs to change in science, or the science of consciousness, a new earth picture, reincarnation as the key to the universe, and spirit, where, who, and what spirit is. And then I'm going to go on. I've begun to talk about what needs to happen here, because we are in deep trouble with the planet. And so in my last talk I began spelling out what we need to be doing, and I'm going to continue that in this series of talks. And then I'm going to, then we'll have some fun. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do at the end, but I'll tell you that no, I'm not going to tell you that. Okay, I have been proposing that consciousness is the true basis of the universe. Consciousness has emerged as a term and a problem in the modern life sciences. Most people think that it can be explained by existing scientific terms, existing explanatory principles. And I'm saying that it can't, and that it points totally beyond present-day science to this new view of the universe I'm laying out, where consciousness and not matter is the true basis of the universe. Now, back up. Modern science. We are a scientific, technological age. The scientific image of nature as something absolutely devoid of consciousness, just matter and mechanism, is actually enabling the destruction of the planet. You don't have to, if it's just matter, if the earth is just things, if it's just matter and mechanism, who cares? You don't have to respect it. And people, in fact, have taken the fact that, or their conviction that the earth has no consciousness as a reason, therefore, to look down on every other being except ourselves. Human beings have never cared for any species except ourselves. And now we have to, because we have reached a point in our history where if we don't start honoring the earth and every other species on the earth, it's game over for us. We are an arrogant and ignorant species, and we are destroying our very life support systems. Okay, modern science. Modern science is already in deep trouble. You might have heard of Roger Penrose. He's a very wonderful mathematician and physicist. Roger wrote a book in 2004 called The Road to Reality. It's 1,000 pages long. It's an account of the whole of physics, with all of its laws, its mathematical laws, its theories, its principles, everything about it. And at the end of 1,000 pages, Roger says, in fact, physics has missed it, that physics has failed to find the road to reality, and that in fact, and I quote Roger, it does not even know what physical reality really is. Pretty serious stuff coming from such an eminent mathematician as Roger. Physics does not even know what physical reality really is. Well, what is physical reality? We all think it, whatever it is, it's what's real, and everything else is secondary, a kind of offshoot of matter and energy. Okay, now comes consciousness. I would say that the facts emerging in the modern world about the nature of consciousness are more important than the Higgs boson particle, which everybody is all excited about, because in fact, the whole of science, present and past, founders on the facts that are emerging. And I'm going to mention just one of them quickly. I mentioned the near-death experience. Now, in Newton's day, there was a controversy about the nature of light. Was light composed of many colors, or was it just white light? Newton gave a demonstration with a prism. He held a prism up to white light, and the light spread into a whole rainbow of color. Now, for those who saw that experiment, it was absolutely decisive. But many people didn't even go to the experiment for the simple reason that they had their egos tied up with false theories and were not about them to have them refuted. Okay, I would say at this point the near-death experience is just about as decisive for our day as Newton's prism experience was for his. It's absolutely decisive for not just this and that theory in science, but for the whole of science itself. I'll describe it in a minute. But I also would say many people are not even looking at it. And it's much worse, actually, these days than it was in Newton's time, because it's not just a question of having one's ego tied up with false theories. One's funding sources are all tied up with false theories. And when you are wondering why so much vehement and vigorous defenses are being made of totally indefensible theories, check out funding sources. It's a very big determinant of what happens in our world. And I'm going to talk about a lot of this later. Okay, the near-death experience, everybody has heard about it. The body in the bed is brain dead. i.e. all the EEG flat, the electroencephalogram is flat. But the patient is alive and well, hovering at the ceiling, able to read dials he could not have seen from the bed, sometimes to see events in the corridor or outside the room, sometimes able to see events even in other rooms, something later confirmed by the doctors, which is just about as good as you get for anchoring something non-physical into physical reality. The patient is hovering at the ceiling. In one such event, the patient saw a ballpoint pen roll under the radiator that even the doctors had not seen. This is pretty good evidence that he's up there. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh well, there are other explanations." Let me just say, first of all, what's remarkable about this? He's up there. He can see without eyes. He can hear without ears. And he can think and remember without a brain. There isn't a single principle of physics can explain any of this. And most of the going theories of consciousness think that consciousness is something produced by neurons in the brain. Well, here the patient is consciousness hovering at the ceiling, totally separate from neurons in the brain. With an EEG flat, the neurons aren't doing very much at all. Consciousness is totally separate from neural activity. And another corollary of the modern assumption is that consciousness is produced by neurons in the brain, and that somehow it's not really real. It's the brain that's doing the work. Consciousness is a byproduct. William James summarized his position by saying, it wasn't his position, consciousness is like a shadow running beside the runner. It runs beside him, but never influences his stride. Consciousness has, Gilbert Ryle called it the ghost in the machine, and tried to get rid of it in favor of the machine. But if the consciousness that the patient is up there at the ceiling with all of these powers that we regularly even tie up with our senses, able to do all these things, consciousness is beginning to look, it's not a ghost. I would say no, it's the organizing principle of the whole machine. We, even human beings, the machines we build, embody an idea. Okay, I would say consciousness is really something real in its own right. And it's separable from neurons, and it can be independent from them. And then comes a moment, the patient is watching the doctor's work over his body below, and then suddenly they revive him and he wakes up in the bed, able to recount all of the stuff he saw when he was at the ceiling. Now this is very remarkable. It's so decisive that a great many people will not even look at it, and complain, they complain and claim that there are other reasons. Well, there's a wonderful book out by a young man called Chris Carter, called Science and the Near-Death Experience. Came out in 2010. And Carter took every alternative explanation and concluded that the simplest explanation is actually the right one, that the guy really was hovering at the ceiling. Now you have to get your mind around this, what it means, because it means that consciousness at some point is totally separable from the body, and it may, and this is what has prompted me to call for a new Copernican revolution, that among our fundamental terms, that consciousness is the fundamental term and not matter. We stand modern science on its head. Now, physics has not been interested in consciousness all along because everybody simply assumed it would, quote, fall out of the physical description. Well, it won't fall out of the physical description. And at this point, if Roger says we don't even understand what physical reality really is, you can hardly base any other theory on it. A great deal of philosophy these days is just an apologist for physics and for the scientific image of nature. Well, Roger has just pulled the rug out from under it, and philosophers need to find a better standing ground. I would say that better standing ground is in fact consciousness, the concept of consciousness, and that is the fundamental term. And so I propose a new Copernican revolution, that consciousness and not matter is the fundamental term. It's there from the beginning in the universe. Everything has it, and all of the true explanatory principles are in it. They belong to consciousness and not matter and mechanism. Science is really, has taken the appearance to be the reality. It looks at trees and beings around us and sees their material aspect. And so I'm proposing a new image of nature. What are the trees? What are the animals? They're expressions of consciousness. To answer Roger's question, what is physical reality? Physical reality is an expression of consciousness. Even the least little bit of matter has consciousness. even the least little bit of matter is an expression of consciousness. We're looking around us at conscious beings like ourselves. We have always assumed, well, we can't see it, so it's not there. It makes much better sense if you realize, everything else is just as conscious as we are. It's not our consciousness, but it's consciousness. And a layout, and that gives a certain reason maybe to respect other beings as we have not done up until now. Okay, now, I have laid out the whole science of consciousness in talks I gave last April. You can look it up, but that's the essence of my claim. And when you invert science, of course, when you invert the explanatory terms of science, you have to make a major reinterpretation of modern science, which I do not hesitate to do, and you should take a look at it because it's a lot of fun. The dark energy of space, 97% of all the energy of the universe is hidden away in the dark energy of space. That's just the energy of infinite spiritual universes, filling up what we call empty space, which is really filled with other dimensions of reality. And quantum physics, Richard Feynman said, anybody who claims to understand quantum mechanics is either crazy or a liar. I would say what you're looking at in quantum mechanics is consciousness going in and out of physical form. And in fact, you're looking at where our little narrow Cartesian three-dimensional universe in space and time interfaces with the true universe, which is consciousness, a great sea of infinite forms of consciousness. And then we write, what about the search for unified field theory? Well, when physicists have a unified field theory, it's the attempt to unify the four basic forces, the gravitational, the electromagnetic, and the weak and strong nuclear. You can see all this on my science site. I would say, well, if the physicists have it, they actually end up with a description and not an explanation of the flotsam and jetsam of the universe, something that is an appearance of something that's more real. Matter is an appearance of something that's much more real, consciousness, just as we know it in ourselves. And consciousness comes in physical form and it goes out of it. Matter is the dependent variable, consciousness the independent. This is all it sounds complicated. It isn't. It's just a new universe picture. And we are looking at a universe. It isn't a dead universe of mechanics. It is a living, breathing, awake, aware, and spirited universe, conscious and intelligent and creative throughout. And this gives us a new way to see the earth around us, and it takes the first steps into getting. We are in such deep trouble with the earth. I take the first steps in this way to getting us on the right footing with the planet, because we have to radically rethink ourselves. And in fact, these enormous storms, these droughts, they are a call to radically rethink ourselves, and even ordinary people know this. And so this is my beginning. A new universe picture, a new fundamental principle, new explanatory principles, not matter and mechanism, not the forces, not the purely physical forces, not chance and necessity. The universe picture I'm going to really lay out for you has a room for ideas. Ideas are simply organizing principles of consciousness. We know them in ourselves. Our entire lives are orchestrated by our consciousness, by ideas. Human beings, everything we do practically is a function of ideas. This room has, this new universe picture has a place for love as a causality. It has a place for subjectivity, my I, my sense of myself, my own being. It has a place for everything we most prize about ourselves. And I'm really, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm taking us as a clue to what the universe is. But then I'm going to go on from what the universe is to say more about us. That we are the key to the universe, and the universe is the key to us. And Einstein, to contradict Einstein, that we aren't schoolboys on a beach. We're part and parcel of the universe. We're trying to know. And we can know it. It's absolutely open to us. It's once you realize that everything has consciousness, and consciousness is a fundamental term, then we have the right questions to put to our own consciousness. Well, how does it work? How does it work? And I would say consciousness everywhere functions by a kind of alignment from the top down, not reduction to the basic elements at the bottom of things. It functions by a kind of alignment. And the nature that we're looking at is really very complex, interacting systems of consciousness. Consciousness, a continuum of many forms of consciousness, of which our own is one. Now, this opens up enormous new possibilities for how we can know the earth, how we can know ourselves, what is the universe, how does it all work? It's so simple actually. It's kind of, as I sit here thinking about it today, it's just laughable because modern science has gotten so complicated. The universe is complex. It is not complicated. It is complex, and we can grasp our first fundamental principles because they're the universes. We're just an instant of the universe that we're trying to know. And if we take a good look at ourselves with the right questions, we'll have the keys to the universe. Okay, let's just take a moment now to take a break. There's a new physics with a total reinterpretation of modern science. Mathematics, our great mathematical order. Mathematical order is just the simplest kind of order, as a child crawls before it walks. And you need to take a look at my site. I don't miss much in the reinterpretation of science, and it's a lot of fun. And when you turn everything upside down, just so much falls into place, and a lot of other disciplines have a place as in a I call it the consciousness universe, and in all my works I spell it out. And in this universe, science has no monopoly on knowing. The prejudices of science have always been rather clear to me. Science knows. Philosophy is so much hot air, and religion is outworn superstition. Well, in this consciousness universe that I'm saying we're really all living in, science has no monopoly on knowing. All disciplines have some contribution to make if we really want to understand the universe to its very depths. I would leave you with just one term for the whole of the universe: inspirited. It is inspirited throughout. It is not the dead universe that the whole of scientific tradition has elaborated with meticulous and great care by taking the appearance of something to be the real. It isn't. And now let me quickly return to good old Roger. Roger says at the end of his book, well, he doesn't know where to go with, we don't know what physical reality really is. But I do. I say just turn it the other way around at the problem of consciousness. And Roger says there, if physics is going to continue in the 21st century with the spectacular successes that it has had in the 19th, 20th century, it will require new concepts of a completely different kind. And I say, yes, Roger, and here's the first of them, consciousness. And I would say to Thomas Nagel, who's been so critical of the scientific image of nature, you're right on, Thomas. The scientific nature is false. That isn't what nature, what modern science think it is. It isn't. and so on down the line. Almost all modern theories of consciousness think it's something produced by neurons. Well, it isn't. It can't be. In fact, the near-death experience calls the whole of science into question. Science has always thought that there was just one principle, and it was matter. Well, the near-death experience means there are at least two principles. One is matter in the bed, and the other one is consciousness at the ceiling. I'm going to go on and just turn the whole thing upside down and say we're exactly in the position of Copernicus, making his calculations on the basic assumptions of Ptolemy and Greek astronomers, very complicated epicycles, until they got so unwieldy that in great exasperation he tried things the other way around. He was working on the assumption that the Earth is the center of the universe. That's what the Greeks thought. And the sun revolves around it along with the planets. And then he turned it around to assume the sun was the center. And lo, all his calculations fall neatly into place. I'm saying when we invert our fundamental concept of matter, we rewrite it into matter is an expression of consciousness, we solve just about every human problem. Every intractable problem will go down like a line of dominoes before it.